Welcome everyone to Behind the Raise. This week I'm joined by Chaojia Lee, founder of Rosecut.
Hi everyone, my name is Chaojia, or Q for short. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of a fintech called Rosecut Technologies. We are at our seed stage and have been in operation for the past 3 years. The whole Rosecut proposition is that for the successful professionals who want to achieve their life goals, we help them to have access to financial knowledge, as well as helping them to achieve that by managing their money as well.
And tell me a little bit about your initial experience of pitching investors.
That's hard. I would not to make it sound any better than that. I think what it is really practice makes perfect. Only after you've done 50 or 100 pitches, you start to get an idea of how to deliver your message efficiently in a very limited time. So I think, at the beginning, we had some sort of practice sessions with low stake environment, friendly investors or helpers, advisors, to really help you to sharpen your message and up the game. So this is something I would say I wouldn't underestimate for any founders. It's a skill that needs to be learned through this process.
Okay, so I'm assuming at this stage you're getting a lot of feedback from investors. How do you decide which feedback you act on and which feedback you sort of leave?
So you kind of look at feedback from a couple of angles. So first of all, there is such a thing as your opinion of the world versus mine. And for example, Rosecut is a B2C proposition, whereas the investor has an opinion to say, I think this problem is solved better with a B2B proposition. And then you're free to disagree. I have a view, this is the best way to the market. You have a way, there's a different way to the market, despite both of us agree there's a massive market opportunity there. So I would say, if they have a different view in terms of your proposition, you of course can try to explain why you see it this way, but don't feel that bothered if they disagree with you. Second type of comments, if there's a poke holes in your sort of proposition, that can be really valuable. So for example, I've got investors asking me, why don't you target majority of the population? And why do you think about UK as the right place to launch this versus another market? What is your international plan? And once I have that, answer to them and they start to poke holes in that, I would consider this kind of feedback really valuable. For example, I had a really in-depth conversation with the top VC where they told me, like, Chaojia, I disagree with the direction of your product, but VCs are really bad at making product decisions. So we can't invest now, but come back to us with more evidence. So I found, that is really instrumental. I think you get some idea of what they disagree with you with, and they help you to really formulate your thinking and then pushing it further step. And the last disagreement usually is about fit, and this is one of my lessons learned. I would do more diligence on my investors before the call, and sometimes may not even bother if there's not a fit. So, going back to the B2C versus B2B proposition, saying some of the funds are just purely focused on B2B. They might find you interesting from the demo day and they want to talk to you. But in the end, even that single investor is interested in you, there are other hurdles you have to jump through later on. So, you get blocked by their invest committee meeting because you don't fit into the investment thesis. As a money manager, I know how hard, how rigid sometimes those investment theses can be. And I would rather bet. I would rather not bet. I would be the exception. So I think, another thing is you need to figure out whether you have a fit with the investment thesis of the investors. VCs tend to be more rigid than angels, for example.
So what do you think got you to kind of really progress with investors? Was it traction and metrics? Was it product? Was it the team? I mean, can you define the things that kind of really helped you get momentum?
Yeah, and that's another really good question. So first of all, I think depending on what kind of stage you're talking about, given how early we were, um, what investors really took on was betting on the founders. Really, because they are looking at the deck, very limited traction. Yes, you've got, sign-ups and you've got indicated interest, but that's not enough to a lot of the investors. So I would say they look at you as a person to say, what can I see in terms of the quality? Not just in terms of professional track record, but the kind of personality, the kind of your why you start this business is more important than what actual business idea is. I've been told a couple of times on this, right? So I think a lot of our investors, as is my personal experience, is that they could see this is my vision and I have a strong view in this line of business and I want to express it. And they were betting that me as an insider might get it right in terms of the vision and direction where I want to take this business towards. And so they jumped in. That is probably the first couple of investors. Usually you're just really looking for like-minded people to join you on this journey.
Excellent, thanks, Q. Tell me a bit about using Angel Investment Network. What was the experience like, and did you meet any investors in the process?
Yeah, I think first of all, I heard good things about AI and in the entrepreneur network. And then I reached out to a friend, maybe I should talk about who that friend is, you or, not. But the whole idea is that we wanted a diverse base of investors, not just VCs, because from my first round experience, I realized some angel investors could be super useful and supportive. And so to me, that's not a nice to have, that's a must have. And AIN was set, based on my research, saying that has a really good database of experienced angels. And this is another thing, you need the angels to be experienced to be really able to add value. And so we spoke to Ed, who's the head of the brokerage, and went down the route of a more managed approach for those conversations, mostly for efficiency. And indeed, we got really great angels out of the process. I probably had 30, 40 interested parties, and eventually I had 2 angels on board. If you think, okay, 2 out of 30, 40 is not a very high percentage, but I would say the 2 angels we handpicked that are very aligned with us, one of them is a super angel, and the other one has the specific skills that we really value. So I would consider that a very successful partnership.
I'd like to hear a little bit in terms of how you came up with the valuation for Rosecut.
So I think valuation is fairly simple in the sense that you have your expectation of, okay, I don't want to dilute over X percentage, say 20%. And then you have the external, what is the market rate really for your stage and your size of your current traction. So as a finance professional, I don't have a sort of a fixated idea of saying I need to achieve the highest valuation. I don't think that's a point of early stage. And for me, I was very much looking at what is the market rate for our stage, as well as what is the minimum cash we need for the percentage we're happy to give out. And then, we spoke to VCs who would put a price tag on the business. And then we look at the price tag versus the lead partner, which one we like. And then interestingly, we went to someone who gave us a slightly cheaper price tag, but with a proven track record as an amazing investor. Then the angels basically jumped onto that valuation. You don't typically negotiate valuation with angels. If they're experienced angels, they know they don't set the price.
Great. Thanks, Q. And my last question is, if you were doing this all over again, what's the one thing that you would do differently?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I would say, for us, we have done the things as in you build a business, you go out to talk to the investors, and then you collect the checks and you bury down your head and build for another 12 months and you do that again. Now, I wouldn't mind experimenting with a different approach, which is currently, let's say, in trend, about the constant fundraising, building a relationship with VCs, collect feedback from them from day one, as well as collecting feedback from your end consumers, so target audience. So not only you get a feedback to shape your product, but you also get constant feedback and sort of affirmity with the investor community. So that, I wouldn't say it's more time efficient, but that definitely gets you sort of a bit more into the investor community and potentially make your future raises a bit easier. That said, I understand not everyone has that kind of network to plug in to start with. I definitely didn't have. I plugged myself into the startup community through Entrepreneur First and then other entrepreneur communities. But I learned this trick sort of a couple of years down the track. So if you're starting Raise now, as an entrepreneur, you might consider doing that from day one.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Q. Best of luck with Rosecut in the future, and we look forward to following your journey.
Thank you, John. Really interesting chatting with you today.